On a desolate battlefield that is populated with mean faces for some reason, a hero faces off against the demon lord who mocks him. The demon lord is charging up a purple attack and states that if the hero fails to stop him, then the world will come to an end. The hero acknowledges this and flicks up a rock which will be his last resort. The demon's spell forms a giant rock in the sky, which he then proceeds to chuck at the hero. The hero in response chucks the rock that he picked up, and the two rocks collide head-on. However, despite what high school physics would have you believe, the smaller rock wins the battle of momentum and pushes the larger rock back, destroying it completely. The hero is tired of all the cheap tricks that the demon has been pulling and is ready to finish this battle with an all-out assault. The demon agrees to end this quickly, and they both get into battle stances. The demon rushes forward with his satanic power, and the hero does the same with his golden dragon power. The two clash several times in the span of a second, and they seem to be evenly matched. The battle rages on, and the ground beneath their feet is destroyed under the sheer force of their clash. Once the dust settles, the demon lord seems worse for wear with labored breathing and torn clothes, but the same can be said for the hero. The two stagger towards each other, and without care for their own lives, they stab each other straight through the chest and collapse to the ground. As the last morsels of life escape the hero's body, he is simply happy that his battle is finally over and he can finally rest. Sometime later, students are seen heading into school in the morning, and one boy with a very obvious main character haircut is the most excited of all the students to be there. He can't wait to make friends and have a normal life as a normal person would do. He struts through the halls like, "Hello, my fellow normal students, it's a very normal day we're having, isn't it?" The other students find him strange but don't want to get directly involved, so they don't say anything about it. But when he walks straight up to them to introduce himself as Blade, it becomes really hard for them to keep their distance. The guys introduce themselves as Cassim and Clay, and the girls are Jessica and Claire. Blade firmly declares that he is here to make friends, and Claire asks if he wants to be friends with them. Blade obviously agrees and is elated to already have 4 friends, so much so that he now wants to make it 10, no, 100 friends at school. Their conversation is then interrupted by a red-haired girl who reprimands them for making a commotion in the middle of the school halls. The girl is Ernest Flaming. She's ranked #1 in the school, and thus has been given the title of Empress among the student body, not someone you could just walk up to, but Blade couldn't care less about titles. He gets right up in her face and introduces himself to her, but Ernest is more interested in knowing why she has never seen him here before. The others inform her that he is actually a transfer student that just arrived in the school, but Ernest can't believe that the famed Rosewood Academy that only admits students who have the aim of becoming heroes of justice would allow such a late admission. Blade states that he has no intention of becoming a hero at all, and he just wants to make friends here. Upon hearing this, Ernest is enraged and yells at him for having such weak resolve. But Blade is unfazed by this and just asks her to take him to the headmaster's office since he was already meant to go there. Ernest and Blade arrive at the huge doors of the headmaster's office, and she announces their presence. They are told to come in, and upon seeing the man who is seated across from them, Ernest immediately bows down. But once again, Blade doesn't give a damn and just walks forward. Ernest tries to stop him and asks him if he really doesn't know who is seated in front of them, but Blade is aware that it is the king. He just doesn't care. She tries to apologize for his rudeness, but the king isn't offended in the slightest. He praises Ernest for her excellent record and states that he's going to be the new academy headmaster starting from today onwards. Upon hearing this, Ernest starts expressing her happiness to be instructed by the king himself, while Blade just stands there and watches her. The king has had enough of her ego stroking and tells her to shut her mouth and get the hell out of his office, but in a more polite way. The king only wants to talk with Blade, and now Ernest is angry that he's getting all the king's attention and stomps off. Blade asks the king why he had to go and do that, because now Ernest probably hates him. The king states that he is here to help with Blade's rehabilitation as a hero and will be making some changes to the curriculum to help him regain his power. But Blade doesn't want that at all. He just wants to be a normal human now, but the king has no intention of letting him remain normal. He wants him to regain his power even though the demon lord is dead. Later, Blade heads to the training grounds, where a bunch of students are working on their respective strengths, and he spots Ernest there. She asks him what he is doing here since this is the advanced class, and Blade states that when he took the test for the lower class, they told him to come here. But she isn't buying it, and when he shows his badge to prove it, then she thinks he must have bribed someone to get bumped up to the advanced class, or at least cheated in some way to get into the academy, since the academy would never admit someone who didn't want to be a hero. But once again, all he wants to do is to become friends with 100 people, so he starts asking everyone in the training grounds to be his friend while Ernest is still talking. She's upset that he is ignoring her and tells him to listen to her when she is speaking, but then he puts his hand on her head and tells her that he is still listening to her. She is embarrassed by this and pulls out her sword to slash at him, but he effortlessly jumps over the blade and the slash goes off and hits a wall. She is surprised that he was able to dodge the strike, but before she can say anything, another student comes up and tells them that the teacher has asked all the students to gather. Blade, not one to miss an opportunity to make a friend, introduces himself to the girl and asks for her name, but she doesn't answer at first. Ernest mentions how the girl doesn't like to talk to people, but after Blade's insistence, she tells him that her name is Sophie. Ernest is slightly pissed that Blade was actually able to get her to talk, so she asks the teacher to let her test Blade's abilities in class. She tells Blade to use a sword to slice through a set of enchanted armor, which is something that any advanced class student would be able to do. So if Blade can't do it, then it will prove that he cheated to get into the school and he will be forced to leave. Blade doesn't seem too nervous and just asks her what the appropriate level of power would be for the advanced class. And when she says 3 levels above normal, he activates his second sword technique, which absolutely atomizes the suit of armor and some of Ernest's clothes as well. Everyone is somewhat damaged from the force of Blade's attack, and Ernest asks who he really is, but he still says he is just an ordinary guy. Later at lunch, Blade sits down at Ernest's table and calls his other friends over to sit at the table, but they decline the offer. Ernest says that they don't want to sit here because they are afraid of her, but Blade wonders what it is that they find to be so scary about her. He takes a bite of his food and immediately is amazed by how delicious it tastes. Ernest apologizes to him for what she said earlier, since she thought that he had cheated his way into the academy when he was actually strong enough to make it on his own. But Blade had already forgotten all about that, so he tells her not to worry about it. He thanks her for being his friend, but she is taken aback that he considers her a friend. She is embarrassed, but is also happy to finally have a friend of her own. Later that night, Ernest is in her room, still happy that she finally has a friend, when suddenly the sword on the wall makes a sound and she recalls her childhood. She saw the sword, which told her to surrender herself to it, and obviously, she grabs the damn, probably cursed sword, and then her hair turned red. The next day, Ernest is training with some other students with that same cursed sword. She is engaged in battle with a lancer. He activates his lance, but she just swats him away and he has been defeated. But then the curse kicks in, and she's about to split this guy's head open, but manages to stop herself at the last minute. She calls for the next challenger, and Sophie steps up to battle. They take blows across the field, but then Ernest jumps into the air and launches a flame strike, which makes Sophie give up. Next up is Blade, but Blade is apprehensive about fighting Ernest while she clearly isn't in the best of condition. She insists that she is fine, however, but when she picks up her sword again, she falls to the ground and is caught by Blade. Blade later takes her to the infirmary, but the doctor says that there is nothing she can do for her. The doctor can heal basically any injury or disease. Even if you are on the brink of death, she could still probably bring you back. But curses are outside her area of expertise. Ernest wakes up and asks where she is, and Blade tells her that she passed out and he brought her here. She then tries to get up and asks if she did anything a little murdery, but Blade assures her that she just fell unconscious and collapsed, though she was really hard to carry. Ernest then tries to leave, but the doctor orders her to get back into bed and rest. Blade tells the doctor that he will look after Ernest if anything happens, so she should be allowed to leave, and the doctor allows it. Blade helps Ernest walk out of the infirmary, but as soon as she sees other students, she is more worried about her image and tells him that she can walk by herself. Blade tries to get her to rely on him a little more, but even if they are friends, Ernest doesn't want his help. Blade takes matters into his own hands and sneaks into the academy headquarters to find out some more information about Ernest's sword. He finds out that it is a demon sword, and who just lets a kid have a cursed demon sword. The next day, Blade asks to speak with Ernest in private, and she thinks that he is trying to threaten her to take her #1 spot. But Blade couldn't care less about that. What he actually cared about is Ernest, and she takes this as him asking her out. Blade then tells her that he knows the story behind her sword. Later in the evening, they meet on the top of the building, and Blade asks how she came into possession of a demon sword. And she tells him that when she was younger, that she accidentally touched the sword, and then the sword tried to get her to wreak havoc, but she's been able to fight back the urges up until now. Blade tells her that there is a way to get rid of that, and she knows, but it is dangerous, since if she does it, then a demon will come to life. However, Blade assures her that if the demon spawns, then he will cut it down. Ernest agrees to do the pact and summons the demon. She appears in a dark space with the giant demon, and it nearly takes over her body, but Blade is there to keep her in check, and thanks to him, she is able to fight off the demon and defeat it. It is a dark and stormy night, and in a very worn-down castle, the echoes of a battle can be heard through the halls. At this very moment, a battle is taking place to decide the fate of the human realm. The demon lord fires a blast that knocks the hero party to the ground, and he tells them that while they have impressive power, that they have no hope of winning this battle. One of the hero party members begins to lose hope, but then their leader stands up and tells them not to give up. As long as they have breath in their bodies, they still have hope, and after seeing him push forward, the party regains their morale and prepare to engage the Demon Lord in combat again. The demon is preparing a new attack, and a group of heroes put their plan into action. The mage casts his shield around the party, which blocks the demon's attack, but in the process is shattered. The tanker then rushes forward to draw his fire and gets hit with a punch that spews blood out from his body. But he is able to distract the Demon Lord long enough for the leader to get into position and attack. The other mage charges the sword with extra power as they put all their hopes and lives in the hands of the hero. There is a bright flash as the strike lands on the Demon Lord, but once the dust settles and the light fades, the hero falls down and spits up a pool of blood. His attack was successful, and the Demon Lord has been gravely wounded. But he states that though he has been defeated, his minions will live on for an eternity, and he too will eventually be reborn. This victory is only temporary, as when he returns, he shall bathe the world in his blood-soaked, edgy vengeance. It then fades to a little boy in the future, who turns out to be the reincarnation of the Demon Lord, and now that he is back, he'll get his revenge on the hero Max. As he basks in his own self-asserted glory, he is interrupted by his servant Xenia, who welcomes him back from his slumber. The Demon Lord asks where the rest of the demons are and is informed that the rest of them are still in a dormant state. For now, Xenia suggests that he put on some clothes, but when he gets her old clothes, he finds that they no longer fit him as well as they used to 10 years ago. If it wasn't already obviously, he has had a dramatic size change since his power has not fully been restored to what it used to be. Therefore, his body, muscles, and PP are now that of a child. But it turns out his gender has also changed. However, Xenia thought something like this might happen, so she took the liberty of creating some clothes that might fit his new form. He complains about the outfits he is forced to put on, but he has a smile on his face, so that leads me to believe that he actually enjoys it. But when Xenia pulls out a swimsuit, that is a line that he won't cross. But what did he expect when he decided to take fashion advice from Xenia, who was dressed like that? He asks about the hero and what he has been up to in the past 10 years. Surely he has done great things and has been recognized as a great man, but Xenia informs him that the hero has actually disappeared. Upon hearing this, he thinks that the hero must have separated himself from society in order to train himself for their next battle. But Xenia tries to dodge the subject and distract him with the work that he has to do. But the Demon Lord isn't letting it go that easily. He deduces that Xenia must be hiding something from him and pressures Xenia to tell him whether the hero is alive or not. He has to find out, so he uses his third eye and is able to sense the hero's energy in the world, therefore the hero must still be alive. He plans to pop over to the hero's location to tell him see him and come right back, but Xenia really doesn't want him to go. But the Demon Lord is not one to be persuaded out of doing things, even if it is something as reckless as visiting your arch-enemy while you are in a weakened state that he could easily one-shot. He flies off to see the hero, and Xenia apologizes to herself for not being able to stop him. As the Demon Lord flies over the human city, it appears to look more like a modern city than the medieval stuff you'd be used to. He's gotten himself hyped up to meet the hero again, but when he finally reaches the hero's location, he finds it shut in. The Demon Lord thinks he must have gotten the wrong room, but the guy confirms that his name is actually Max. And then he notices the holy sword in the corner of a room like trash. Max then realizes that the person in front of him is the Demon Lord, but he doesn't seem to care all that much. The Demon Lord then scolds him for keeping his room in such a messy state and starts cleaning up the room and messing with his stuff. And he just seems to be enjoying the modern inventions of humans. Max asks him why he came here at all, and he finally remembers what he wanted to do. He makes his grandiose claim to power and states that he has returned stronger than ever, and this time he will surely take over the world with his power and might. But Max couldn't give a rat's ass about what the Demon Lord has planned. He doesn't want to get involved. The Demon Lord is confused that Max doesn't care at all when 10 years ago, he was so full of passion and conviction towards saving the world from the threat of the demons, but now he's just laying in bed without a care in the world. What could have changed? Max tells him that after he had defeated the Demon Lord, he was cast aside by the human world. They no longer needed a hero and forgot all about him, leaving him to fade into obscurity. A sad story, but one quick Google search later, it is revealed that every word he just said was cap. An article tells the story of his involvement in a scandal worth a married woman, but he swears that he didn't know she was married. But the scandals don't end there, for there is another article about him attacking a citizen. And while he says he was attacked by them first, the Demon Lord guesses that he was just drunk and lost his temper. And to put the final nail in the coffin and make it incredibly easy to cancel him, he cheated on 10 different women at the same time. It seems that that last one was actually not true at all. He had never met those women before. But as the internet goes, he was mimicked harder than Will Smith's slap, and there was nothing he could do about it. The Demon Lord tries to cheer him up by showing him some of his highlights, but when he pulls up a promotional video for Max, it turns out to be an utter cringe fest. The cheesiest speech that you would ever hear, and the Demon Lord is cracking up just listening to it. But that's how it goes when you are famous. The internet looks for ways to cancel you. The Demon Lord looks at a framed picture of Max's companions and him from 10 years ago. The demon starts to fawn over the old Max and his physique and potential, but it is starting to creep Max out a little. He hasn't seen any of his companions in years, which may be due to his insufferable superiority complex and egotistical nature, but he would never admit that to himself. He is going to stay like this, and he has no intentions of changing his behaviors in any way or trying to work on himself. He is a shell of the former Max. The Demon Lord realizes that this must be why Xenia didn't want to let him come here. She knew that when he saw the fallen hero, he would be incredibly disappointed that his arch-nemesis is now nothing but a shut-in societal outcast. He gives up on trying to spur Max back into his old ways and announces his intentions to leave, but before he goes, he states that he is going to reassemble his army and plan another attack on the human world, and since they don't have a worthy hero anymore, they will surely lose. It's going to be a cakewalk for him to win that fight. But Max couldn't care less. He is actually done with all that and really doesn't care what happens to the world or who wins the battle. His world is confined to his room, so he doesn't care about anything else. The Demon Lord then states that Max's companions are going to have a difficult time battling him alone, and maybe he might just pop on over to their house and kill them immediately to get it over with. But Max still doesn't care. In fact, he encourages it since he owes a lot of money to one of his companions, so if the Demon Lord kills him, he won't have to pay him back for it at all. That one was too far even for the Demon Lord. If he wants to act like a demon, then the Demon Lord will happily send him to hell once and for all. He charges up an energy blast in his hand and lunges at Max with intent to kill, but Max is still a hero after all. He jumps out of the way and in half a second, knocks the Demon Lord across the room with nothing but a pillow. The Demon Lord is in a weakened state, so if Max actually wanted to, he could absolutely decimate him without so much as breaking a sweat. The Demon Lord is knocked out cold and later wakes up in a dark room. He is in Max's closet and he wonders why Max didn't just kill him immediately. It only makes sense to eliminate a threat as soon as possible. He opens the door and finds Max looking at something with laser focus. His eyes are so trained and on it that he must be analyzing something important in great detail. Never mind, he's just looking at the hub. The Demon Lord is once again disappointed in Max. But before he can pull out the lotion, the Demon Lord steps out of the closet and tells him that he should at least wait until he is alone to do stuff like this. Later, Max is making some coffee, and the Demon Lord asks why he didn't just kill him when he had the chance to do so. It doesn't make sense to let the Demon Lord live. But Max isn't the hero anymore, so that isn't his job anymore, and in fact, with the current public opinion of him, if he were to kill the Demon Lord in his current state, there would probably be news articles about Max killing a defenseless child within the hour. They sit down to drink the coffee, and the Demon Lord acknowledges that Max has still got his power. He really knocked him out with just a pillow, and did it with style too. But on the other hand, the Demon Lord has lost his touch, which makes it laughable that he even thought he would be able to get away with killing the other hero party members. But he swears that he will regain his power once more, and when the time comes, they shall have a glorious battle. But Max cannot promise that the battle will happen. He may still care about his friends, but he actually does hate the world since there is nothing left in it for him. He has been cast aside, even if it was due to his own actions. And in the end, if the Demon Lord causes trouble, a new hero will likely rise up to battle him. The Demon Lord finally takes the hint and leaves, but then he returns later with groceries and starts acting like Max's girlfriend. Max is creeped out by this, and at this rate, he's going to get a visit from Chris Hansen. But the Demon Lord has decided to live with him, and they share a meal together. This was the end of the first part. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will see you in the next video.